Mobile Industry Review, Mobile Developer TV.
So here's what we bring to our operators, to our operator partners. A platform that does many things. It helps you extract location from smartphones and other phones. Okay, whether it's a technology that could run on that phone, on a smartphone or an Android, so the information is not just captured by Google, but also by the operator themselves. Right. So we can get you location and get it for you free to cheap. Okay, so that now enables an API where we can expose to developers. A lot of carriers also have other location infrastructure. We can take those location feeds, offer that to an app developer for an operator, for let's say UK operator, let's call them UK operator number one, and then you've got one operator. But then what we're doing in the United States is we're bringing in operator number 2, operator number 3, operator number 4 with common privacy and permission. So we're able to broker with the systems of a carrier specifically that say that Tasso can locate Joel. And that Joel can locate Tasso, even though we're on different carriers. And each carrier, we're following their rules, and we're effectively the federators of that. Okay, so that's a key thing. So privacy is important, cross-carrier is important. We enable that, and we have an app developer community of 1,200 that we would bring to our operator partner. Again, maybe there's not 100% overlap with the market we're going after, but we would aggressively invest with our operator partners to kind of bring these app developers to market. Now, keep in mind when we're talking about remotely being able to locate a phone. This is different than, for example, building a smartphone application where to access a location you actually have to be using the application, like you can on an iPhone. We can remotely locate every phone. That means you can do a bunch of things. You can location enable every SMS. So think about the potential that provides. Right now, on a smartphone, you download the application and you use it. And you have this kind of one-to-machine use of location. If it was location with the user's permission, was accessible to everybody and every app and could be used with all these different platforms, that opens up a whole new kind of category of app developers, which is completely unexploited. So that's a big. Imagine every SMS could be location enabled, right? Think of the potential services you can offer that. Every WAP session could be location enabled, not just on certain Android phones. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of platforms that are completely unpenetrated, and there are a whole bunch of verticals, including advertising and social network, which are not going to face the penetration required until you can ubiquitously locate every phone. Yeah. So that is what we're trying to bring to the market with a common API as a service for operators to be able to monetize. The system is hosted, by us, in the regions where we have our partners, obviously, but we do that on their behalf, which allows us effectively to get their location information, so whether it's a cell ID almanac or a feed from their GMLC, right, which is where the location infrastructure, we will supplement that with the ability for us to build location technology on smartphones and any phone that can run a background process. So we'll bring as much location to the party as possible. Some of it ours, some of it with other providers, and we effectively take that. We've got a VPN, we've got an app developer community, right? They have app developers, they want to get on-ramp through this platform, and we plug it in and we get going in weeks. It is really literally a week's process. And we're going to, in the coming weeks, we're going to announce a carrier, and then our integration will be done in 3 weeks, and we'll get apps on it. There's a great company called UShip, which does this peer-to-peer shipping. So if you're moving from Los Angeles to San Francisco, you got extra room on your U-Haul. You can go. It's a marketplace where you can. But one of their biggest struggles was, unlike UPS and FedEx, who they kind of compete with, right? They were unable to kind of do package track. They couldn't package track. So with one API, they are now able to use the proxy, the phone of the driver as a proxy for the package. So you can now see where your package is exactly, across country. This is just an interesting use of location technology, which we didn't think of, right? That app developers come to us with. Okay, so this is and just a simple example of how something that has high ROI value for an enterprise and is monetizable for an operator and for other parties in the chain, where location is not free, and fulfills a kind of a great customer need. We're working with a company involved in the weather business, and we're going to enable geofencing-based services where people get alerted if there is something like a tornado or some kind of a warning. So effectively, something that people think is completely futuristic, very Minority Report, if you will, available today with a very recognizable brand. So we're very excited about doing those kinds of services.
Can you just take us through that? So how would that work?
So you would effectively sign sign up for this particular service, and technologically it would set up what's called the geofence. Okay, and as you move around in a very intelligent, low battery consuming way, it knows your location. And if there's an event, effectively an exogenous shock to the system, there's a tornado, there's an earthquake, something happens, it's fed into the system, and our system intelligently determines who's where and who is within that zone, and those folks get perhaps not just a notification of that, but maybe eventually instructions as well. So it's a great consumer app. Why wouldn't you sign up for this? That we're very excited about, and it uses kind of the most advanced technology, which we think is the geofencing. Another example that we're also very high on is here in the United States. Obviously, gambling and betting is a regional thing. You can do it in Nevada, you can do it in Atlantic City, but you can't do it in other places, for example. So, but the mobile phone is this device that is the most personal device where you want to be doing these kinds of things. But you shouldn't be allowed to do it if you're in Los Angeles, but you should be able to do it if you're in Las Vegas or somewhere in Nevada. So one of the things that we're going to enable in the coming weeks is the ability to do the first location-based, the first bet, mobile bet on a mobile phone, where we're effectively the location verification engine. So you can make a request and determine that that particular phone is actually truly in the state of Nevada and let the bet go through. So we think that's massively market expanding for that particular vertical. So there's a whole bunch of consumer, enterprise, even Las Vegas examples. Some developers that we speak to, it's obvious for them, and then others, it starts to click where, hey, location is this incredible tool that I can use in a variety of different ways. I think for the most part, developers absolutely see it, and I think operators, I would say it varies by area. I would say pre-iPhone launch, I had this tip of the iceberg slide, which I don't need to show anymore because everyone knows. Right, but I had, hey, here's some starter apps. Here's navigation. Here's this and that. Here's your enterprise, asset tracker. But then, how about all these other things that you can do? Right, examples that were interesting. So there's less. I think iPhone has evangelized that for us. I would say that initially they were, some had some openness to them. It varied. I would say that the biggest issue for carriers wasn't that they didn't want to launch a lot of location services, but every location service required, here in the United States at least, a massive legal review to make sure that that location information wasn't going to be abused. And that the party offering that service was a trustworthy one, and that the rules of how that location information was going to be used by another party were strict. So imagine a 6-month legal negotiation for you to launch an application, in addition to going through some business cycle where the operator determines whether it's the right application to launch. So it just became really hard, and you had some carriers launching four apps in 2 years in a 3-year period, and that just wasn't kind of scaling. So what's happening now is, I think, the openness of handsets. The operators say, I need to build app developer community, so I need to find a way to streamline that process. So that's what's bringing them to the market with products like ours, which make privacy and permissions, cross carrier aggregate, all these things that are important to foster carrier-based applications, streamlined and not requiring an entire legal department to spend 6 months per application.
Mobile Industry Review, Mobile Developer TV.